Good afternoon, gardening friends. This is the Budget Gardener, and this week we're going to talk about setting up the foundation. I had scripted a lot of this in an effort to try and make my videos a little bit better instead of being so spontaneous, but as it turns out, every script has changes. So what I want to do is show you with these episodes a little bit of what goes on in terms of making a video like this. I've been doing this for 5 years now, so I want to make these a little bit more professional. I'm learning as I go in terms of trying to up the quality of these episodes. So it's been a bit of an adventure this week, but let's see how we got here. I've got some rain coming tonight, so I actually want to test some of the rain-related things that I was planning on with this. So let me bring you over and kind of show you. This is what I've got right now. I had a little experiment where I put this stone here because the rain drops down right along here. You can kind of see that rut. And the problem is it splashes up onto the walkway, and the neighbors actually got a stepping stone because the water actually can get so deep that they need a stepping stone to get out without completely soaking their shoes. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this stone out and I'm going to put in a bigger stone. Okay, so I've dug out that rut a little bit more, and this is the stone I'm going to put in there. The old stone was, I think, a 12-inch, and this is a 16. And I did want to show you that there is a chip, but ultimately that side of it is going to get buried, so it doesn't really matter. So here we go. Okay, so full disclosure, a couple of nights ago it actually rained, and I came up with this idea when I found that stone over there and put it over here. Now we've got a bigger stone. Looks a little odd, but it's there. And I've redug the channel that runs along here to hopefully move the water away. If it moves away, it won't sit so much in that rut, and if it doesn't sit in the rut, then it won't splash off of itself, so hopefully that'll help. Now I've got this stone, and I got a couple more I'm going to put in, and that'll be it for the day. The next step in the garden I wanted to show you, I've now put down rocks. This is part of the sort of drainage system. Apologize for the background noise and stuff to figure out how to deal with that. It's just roads right out there. So anyway, I put down these stones in the hopes that they will sort of dissipate the energy of the water coming down, and then actually follow along here and over that way, and then just go out into the yard that way. That is the hope, and we're supposed to have some rain tonight. I'm taking off on vacation tomorrow, so I figured it made sense to go ahead and put that in there, and we'll give it a test. All right, folks, so here's what we've got to do first. Those three stones that you see up at near the top of the frame, they got to come down a bit. I've got the bigger plan, but I got to make it into a smaller plan and build up from there. These were placed there just to kind of get an idea what it might look like, sort of built out. I can kind of use my imagination from this starting point. The plants is really only one plant there in the two pots. The other one is just got a couple of solar path lights, which actually don't charge up too much because we're not getting a whole lot of sun here, but that's what we're going to get in winter and spring. Even in summer and fall, we're not going to get a whole lot. But if you look down towards the bottom of the frame, you will see there is a sprinkler head. That is inactive, but I can't dig that up. This is an apartment building. So I'm going to actually work the stones around it. You can see that there is a gap between each stone. The plan is to make that a 1-inch gap, and I actually found something that I can use to get me really close to 1 inch. It doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just trying to make it consistent at least. So that sprinkler head down below is about 1 inch in width, the pipe leading up. So I'm going to move the stones down to that point, put one on either side, and build out with, you can see the 3 stones there. Ultimately I'm going to make that 9. And the one in the middle, you might notice, is a slightly different color. I tried picking up one of a different color. I wanted to kind of do like a checkerboard pattern. Unfortunately, that one doesn't seem like it's different enough in color, so I did find some that are a different color, and so I'm going to pull that one out and use the existing red ones. So let me go ahead and start putting that together. Actually, before I do that, I wanted to point out that I don't have a rake, but I kind of want to keep everything clean under the stones before I put them down. You don't need green stuff kind of breaking down under the stones and then things settling. So I've already pretty much tried to kind of pitch the soil here, and I just had an old broom, so I used that to sweep away all of the extra leaves. So in case you're wondering how I'm going to actually get these all squared up, this is pretty much the solution. I have some garden stakes that I found that I had bought a while back. They're both, each of these garden stakes is basically a 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch, so you put two of them side by side and you get 1 inch. And by setting up 2 sets of garden stakes like this, I can actually get something pretty close to a 90-degree angle. The stone on the right, the red one, that one's propped up a little bit because there's a root underneath. So what I'm trying to do is kind of dig and give the root a new path to be, so I can pack down on top of that and be able to flatten that stone. Alright, well, careful observers may notice something a little bit different. I'll give you a moment. Okay, that's long enough. I actually realized that when I started I had 2 red stones and one that was supposed to be the sand color, or what I thought was the sand color. So when I went out to go get more stones today, thinking, okay, I've got 2 usable ones, that means I needed 7 more. So it was going to be 3 of one color and 4 of the other. Well, as it turned out, I goofed. I had 2 reds and I thought, okay, I need less reds. But it turns out if you look at the pattern for a moment, you realize that there's 5 of one color stone and 4 of another. You can ignore the one on the right. That was the wrong colored stone. I just kind of wanted to put it somewhere. So it turns out I went out and bought 4 of these sand colored stones, thinking that's what I was gonna, that was gonna turn out to be the larger number. But if you think about it, I bought 3 more of the red stones, and so that makes 5. So I had to switch the pattern. That said, this is now mostly complete. I've got to actually fill some pots with soil and plant some seeds, and then I can consider phase 1 complete. Good morning, gardening friends, and welcome to Southern California in rainy season. Actually, I'm kidding. Southern California is mostly sun, except when we do have El Nino, and this is one of the reasons I wanted to do some testing with the garden, and today is a perfect day to do it because we're in the midst of the first of a series of storms, and you can get a pretty good view now on what happens when the rain hits the garden. One of the reasons I put the gaps between the stones was to see how the drainage would work. I've also got the, I should say, the gaps between the pavers. And I've got the stones that I laid down thinking, okay, this will, help dissipate the rain. Well, it looks like I need a lot more stone to deal with this. If you look off in the distance near the top of the frame there, you can see quite a bit is actually hitting there. And as far as drainage, it's kind of irrelevant because the whole area is kind of flooding. The good news is the pavers are staying above the flood, which means that the base of the pots will be also above the flood, except in really extreme conditions. The pavers right now are far enough away from the rain that they're just kind of getting the rain that comes down directly because we don't actually have gutters on this side of the building. So that water just freely falls, and that was one of the things I was concerned about when I started putting this together. But this kind of gives you a really good idea what I'm dealing with in terms of rain. It'll be unusual, but I wanted to make sure it was handled. Well, folks, things have changed a bit. I had plans on showing you a video, and I may still have a chance to shoot it, of what it looks like with the rain after I made a little change with the stones for the drainage. As you can see, I've gone from the red stones. Actually, they're still under there, but I've added another layer on top of it to give it more depth. and that seems to be helping. But unfortunately, I got that in, and then it stopped raining. Or fortunately, depending on how you look at rain. Anyway, I did manage to get around to putting together a couple of pots. Just wanted to get something on there. But I'm also looking at this and realizing that with the stone in there now, it really kind of makes it look like it's unfinished, like it needs to be expanded to its full size. So the smaller plan is now going to go to the bigger plan. I'm going to go out and get those stones, get them in, and we're looking at some rain tomorrow. I don't know how heavy it's going to be, if I'll be able to test something, if I'll be able to show you what it looks like with the new stone. Eventually I will. But that's pretty much the update for how things are looking right now, and I'm just about ready, just about finished with shooting for this particular episode. We'll see how it goes. Alrighty then, time to add some more pavers. First, I straightened up the existing stones. Then, adding to the top was pretty simple. Add the bottom or right side pavers. And touch up a bit with the stones I had left over. It actually came together pretty nicely and went together fairly quickly with what I learned from putting the earlier parts of this together. So if you choose to do something like this, the first parts may go a little slow, but then once you get in a rhythm, it's actually pretty easy. And I have another little surprise. When I was out picking up the pavers, I got something that I consider kind of a pleasant surprise. Every once in a while I run into it. Sometimes the big home centers, you'll actually find a rack of plants that are not in peak condition, and I got snapdragons about that big, reduced to $1. So we're going to see. I have to actually check and make sure that these are actually pet friendly before I put them here, but if I can't put them here, I have another place where I can put them. So that wraps up this part. And with that, we'll wrap up this week's episode. As I said before, sometimes plans change. I had scripted out most of the episode and ended up changing it as the week went along, but that's life. So this is the Budget Gardener signing off, saying, may your thumb be green.